Have you lost the connection with your higher self? Are you noticing the dis-ease of the outside world? It's time to reconnect with nature and each other and raise our consciousness, vibration, and frequency. Together we can create a world of peace and abundance. It's Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast today. I have a very special guest. It's Dr. Marni Foderaro. And let me just tell you a little bit about this woman because she is amazing. She's an award-winning and celebrated author. She's a speaker. She's an educator. In fact, she has her doctorate degree in education from Northern Illinois University. And she went beyond that and completed postdoctoral studies at Harvard University. She's had 35 years as a career as a high school special education teacher. She's had 12 years as a university graduate school adjunct professor, and she has written some amazing books. She's been very busy from what I can see, starting in late 2019. She's written 5 or 6 books right in a row. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, welcome to the show. And do you want me to call you Marni or Dr. Marni?
No, Marni is fine. Thank you, Will, for having me on your show.
Great. I'm excited to have you. Something else about Marni's life and in writing these books, a lot of it, even though the one we're going to talk about today a lot is God Came to My Garage Sale, right? And it's a lot about her experiences, that changed her life from really these trauma-induced STEs, right?
Yes, so STEs are spiritually transformative experiences. So yes, they were life-changing.
So maybe you can explain to our audience just a little bit about what that is. So as we talk about spiritually transformative experiences, they know what that means. Everybody hears about near-death experiences and some of those things, but how is this different?
They are very similar. The thing with STEs is that you don't flatline. You don't physically die and then have these experiences. You are very much alive. Although you can be in an altered state, which most of the time with my experiences, I am. I'm in a slow motion kind of, different zone. It's a real different experience where time just stands still. So an STE is very much like a near-death experience, an NDE.
And you get the same really spiritual experience from it, knowing that there's life after this physical experience we're in, et cetera, right?
Most definitely, you get that kind of end result as far as, your knowing that there is an afterlife, that you are supported by divine, that there are different planes of existence other than what you thought. And I actually had an atheist background for most of my life. And so I'm someone who really needed proof and evidence before I would believe in anything like this. And, until I experienced it firsthand, and luckily some of the experiences I did have a witness with me that confirmed and validated, you did experience this, you saw this, I saw it too. But yeah, it is different though, in that, so many NDEs, people go through a tunnel or see the light or are looking down at their body, that type of thing. I think, spiritual transformative experiences can take on various different forms.
So tell us, you said you were an atheist. When did you have these experiences? And were you an atheist up until that point, or were there changes before that?
There were changes before. I grew up in a household where there was no exposure to organized religion or talk of spirituality. And when I went off to college at a pretty early age, I just knew that there had to be something more to our existence. And so, I naturally sought out church and actually was baptized Presbyterian, in my early 20s. And as I got older and was raising a family, I wanted us to be united, and I converted to Catholicism. But I really wanted to learn. I was a lifelong learner. And so I became a lector in the church so that I could read scripture and I could learn about that. But I will say, as time went on, I did see that there was a lot of hypocrisy with organized religion as opposed to spirituality. When humans get involved, especially when you have church leaders that are, conducting themselves in an unethical way. I mean, something that just doesn't seem to coincide with the message of God and spirit. But I certainly believe that there's so many benefits to that too, as far as the community aspect and everything. But it wasn't until I had a very traumatic life experience that I chose to leave a marriage after 27 years. I was just, kind of my whole mind and body and spirit was kind of shocked into trauma at that point. I just kind of had lost everything, and it was just shocking to me. But instead of being negative or angry or sad or, I just had feelings of gratitude and love and compassion, and I was so thankful for just all of the experiences that I had. And it was during that time when I was actually having a garage sale, because I had to leave my American dream. It wasn't what I thought. I was kind of living a false reality for many years. That it was like I was open to these signs and synchronicities that were, that I could not ignore. These experiences were just life-changing. And just like anyone who has had a near-death experience or an STE, they're compelled to talk about it, to share. And so I ended up writing my spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale.
And you wrote that just recently, 2020, wasn't it, that was published?
Well, it won the 2020 Best Books Award, but
okay.
I wrote it. It was published in 2019 with Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House. So I wrote it, not too much longer after this garage sale, when I was definitely in a period of healing, but also in a period of researching spiritual experiences and seeking out information about this. And so I was just so thrilled, it got the attention of James Redfield, who is the best-selling author of the Celestine Prophecy series, who also, that's a spiritual fiction, but all of fiction with this is definitely grounded and inspired by true experiences, which I had, and I've continued to have. Now it seems like I'm more open to paying attention to things that I used to think were coincidences, but I really don't believe they are.
Right. And I think that's kind of a common thing as people kind of get more of a spiritual awakening. They realize those coincidences weren't coincidences after all, right?
Right. And you can go back into your, childhood or early adult years and realize that some of those experiences that you had that you thought were just coincidences really might have been, spiritual messages that you just weren't at a point in your life ready to pay attention to.
Yeah. Can you share this STE that you had and maybe what led up to it to help us understand?
Yeah, sure. Well, there were many STEs. So there were many different experiences and encounters. And, what led up to it is, what I had mentioned before, the traumatic life change. I found myself just, my safety and security, it was just like the rug was pulled out from under me. And for someone that is usually confident and, accomplished and everything, I just found myself at a really, sad turning point. Although I initiated it, I knew that I needed to escape this marriage. I just didn't realize the significant repercussions that would happen as a result. So I call them trauma induced, because actually most of these spiritual awakening experiences, NDEs or SDEs, happen as a result of trauma. It's just with the NDE, the trauma is, you flatline, you die. Where the STE can be other kinds of loss, and it can be very different than the experiences that I had. But, for example, one major experience I write about, it's in chapter 1 of my book, called Dancing Dragonflies. I actually had a dragonfly experience. So I was, again, with all of these experiences I've had, I'm just in a state of gratitude and thankfulness. And I'm just really calm. And, that's just a common thing I've found with when I look at all the different experiences I've had. But I went out to the cul-de-sac and I was kind of without words saying goodbye to this suburban home that I thought would be my forever home. And I was just thankful for what I had in my life. And all of a sudden a dragonfly circled me and I thought, no big deal. And even when there were 5 dragonflies within a few seconds almost, it was no big deal. But then there were like 50 to 100 dragonflies circling me. And I could see them going down the road and coming back to me, and everything was in slow motion. So I could actually see the veins of the wings and the iridescent colors. And I saw different sizes, which I equated to like ancestors, either my own or other people's, I don't know, but I equated them to babies and toddlers and teenagers and young adults and grandparents and, that kind of thing. And the feeling that I got was just, I was surrounded with love. And with all of the experiences that I've had, the feeling is just, I am loved, I am supported, I am, on the right journey, to experience whatever I'm experiencing. And I have since had many other dragonfly experiences since then. And, I know you're out in Utah, and I come to Utah every year skiing. And, 1 year there wasn't enough snow, and we actually were trying to ski early in the season around Thanksgiving. And so our plans changed and we went to Taylor Falls, Minnesota, and ended up, during this Thanksgiving time, going to a winery called the Dancing Dragonfly Winery. And the person who, is the owner of this actually had the same very similar experience, kind of a traumatic situation, but then was circled and surrounded by dragonflies that were so life-changing that, this person probably changed their career completely to have a winery with that same name, because it was just so significant. And I've had many, many other kinds of experiences. Many were at the garage sale, but many were around that same time. And then because it was a spiritual fiction and I wanted to make a story out of this, partly to kind of connect with people that normally wouldn't pick up a book on, near-death experiences or STEs. And I wanted to reach a different kind of audience. And that has proved to be, pretty good, because there are people that normally wouldn't read anything like this that are kind of, my bringing awareness to this is helping open up eyes, for people to pay attention to the signs and synchronicities. But there were many different things and so the dancing dragonflies, was just one of the experiences early on that really got my attention. And I will say, Will, I ended up like 3/4 of the way through this experience. I sort of was coming out of this zone, like, coming back to earth, to my awareness. And I knew to pull out my cell phone, and I actually videotaped, 100 dragonflies around me,
Oh, wow.
because I needed that proof. I need that evidence. And it was like I was given that gift to be able to have that experience, but also document it too.
So, you went through this, the chaos of this long-term relationship just falling
Yes.
apart, and you having to move on, which is not easy for anyone that's been in a
Yeah.
long-term relationship and has had to go through the chaos of that and the heartache and the pain, it's not easy for whether you initiate it or not. It's not a simple thing, and it really, you don't see all the aspects of your life that it affects. If you have children, grandchildren, all those kind of things, it affects so many things in your life and friends and family. But this brings about this change, and you start to. Was it before that? This was the first time you began to really notice these STEs, or really pay attention to them. Okay, and
it was after I filed for divorce, and then realized, that so much of my life was not what I believed it to be. My values of honesty and goodness and, love and, commitment. I mean, that all of that wasn't the same values of who I was with. So all of these experiences, the awakening really happened after, I filed for divorce, and then I realized I couldn't stay in this home that I thought, was paid off and that type of thing. So it really, in some ways, even though I initiated this and it was extremely painful, but I knew I didn't have a choice. I knew for myself to stay true to who I was, I had to do this. I had no idea that I would lose adult children to parental alienation. I suppose if I knew that, I might have just, stuck it out, even though I wouldn't think that would be the best role model even for my adult children.
Right.
But yes, all these changes did happen, when I really made a shift. So in so many ways, I continue with my gratitude and being thankful for the blessings that, if the true colors weren't shown, and I, was kind of forced to make this decision to kind of reclaim my life and to stay true to who I was, I might not have even had these spiritual experiences that were life-changing. So I just am, very thankful, even for the negative situation, because it was part of my journey to bring me towards a much more peaceful, aware, true, authentic living. And in all this change, I was a high school teacher for 35 years and an adjunct professor for 12 of those years. And I needed to finish out my career. I had a couple years left, and I ended up moving from the Chicago suburbs to the Caribbean. And, I'm immersed in nature and, with the ocean and with the animals, and I live in the rainforest, and it's an adventure every day. And I'm just so blessed to be able to experience this. And, that wouldn't have been on my plan if I would have stayed in this situation. So I feel like I'm even given more opportunities to be thankful for, the divine nature of this world.
Well, kudos to you for your courage, because that wasn't an easy thing. Moving forward and growing when your partner may not be is never a easy place to be. And many people, like you said, just will hang in there, even though it's going to hold them back from their true, real purpose, if you will, in life. And you've really found your purpose. And I want to just tell everyone, you haven't just written this book. You've written a series of 5 books, and you've done it within about a year's period of time. Is that right?
Yeah. I wrote a 5-book series. I didn't plan to set out and write that. This series is called True Deceit, False Love. And it's bringing awareness to domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, parental alienation, as well as intergenerational family trauma. Because when you experience what I have experienced, and many men and women unfortunately experience, you have to do a deep dive into your own life and your own childhood wounds and, intergenerational family stuff. You have to look at that and understand what made you a target, for this type of thing, or how you contributed to, not having boundaries and allowing stuff like this to happen. So my 5-book series is not like a tell-all autobiographical, situation. It's really, I'm bringing the teacher in me out to bring awareness to this. So the first book is actually 15,555 terms and phrases on this family stuff. And the second book is acrostic poetry, where it's more informational from an abuser's point of view, a victim's point of view, from a man or a woman or a grandparent or a child, just many different perspectives to bring awareness to the many different aspects and terminology related to this kind of family trauma. The third book is a survivor's workbook. So if other people find that, it could be healing for them to do some writing, I provide a great tool and framework for that. The fourth book is free verse poetry. And the fifth book is actually a word search puzzle book that I actually wrote that entire book when I was in Utah, starting on the plane from the Caribbean. And during that time that the few weeks that I was out in Utah skiing, I actually started and finished that word search puzzle book while I was there. And that was, very healing for me, but also more as a teacher and as a survivor. I found that, sometimes you need a distraction. Sometimes you need to learn about vocabulary and what you've been through. Sometimes you need to just relax and do an activity that, kind of takes you away a little bit from, the reliving the pain and reliving the scenarios over and over. So anyway, this 5-book series has gotten wonderful endorsements from, influencers and, people that are really well-versed in these areas. And, I'm thrilled that they so many of these people found value in what I was doing, because I really looked up to some of these people, when I was trying to seek out answers. I was reading their research. I was watching the YouTube videos. I was, reading blogs and, just trying to make sense of what I went through.
Sure. We're down to the last few minutes here. I want to just ask one question. It's the tough question. But in writing these books and these series of books, what is it? What's the message that you really want to convey to people? What's that thing you really want to help them with?
I would say that we all have challenges in life, and they can be very different for different people. But how we handle and respond to these challenges is very important. And if we handle them with love and honesty and compassion and forgiveness, and just, a sense that, of just goodness, then you are on your way to living a more blessed and fulfilled life. So the message would be, pay attention to signs and synchronicities, because there could be some hidden meanings. Even though you might have adversity in your life, that adversity could lead you on a journey that could bring you to more self-actualization.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Tell us real quick where people can find you and your books.
Sure. My books are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and then at the publisher, which is Hay House, Balboa Press. I'm not on social media because I wanted to spend more time writing, and that's how I could get all those books out. But my website is the title of this spiritual fiction. So www.godcametomygaragesale.com.
Okay. And we just put the name up on the screen so everybody'd know the name of that book. And then anything coming up? Are you going to keep writing or?
I have a 6th book for the True Deceit, False Love series. But I'm only writing it kind of when I feel like it. I've been very, very involved in, cultivating my gardens here in the Caribbean. So, I'm spending time enjoying my surroundings. I definitely have book signings coming up. I have speaking engagements with podcasts. I have been asked to contribute to various magazine articles. So check it out on the happenings section of my website.
I was going to let everybody, you can find that on the happening section of your website, and everybody can find you there. I really appreciate you being on the show today. Everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Will.
You bet. Please look for her book. You can find me at spiritualrevolutionradio.com and comment there, or on Facebook at Life by Design Institute. Thank you, everyone, and love and peace.
This has been Spiritual Revolution Radio with Dr. Will Miller. For more information or to be a guest, please visit lifebydesign.institute. Join us next week for another edition of Spiritual Revolution Radio with your host, Dr. Will Miller. This has been a production from a podcast studio.